It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday afternoon, the kind of afternoon where nothing bad ever happens. Sunlight poured gently over the Maple Ridge Estates neighborhood, manicured lawns, freshly painted mailboxes, American flags hanging neatly from porches. Kids rode bicycles in lazy circles. Sprinklers hissed softly in the background. Everything looked perfect. And that's exactly how the HOA liked it. 8-year-old Ethan Parker stood on the sidewalk outside his house, gripping the straps of his small blue backpack with both hands. His shoulders were tense, his eyes darting back toward the front door, as if he expected someone to yell at him to come back inside. But no one did. His mom had just left for her double shift at the hospital. "Stay close. Don't go far. I'll be home before dark," she had said, kneeling to kiss his forehead. Ethan nodded. He always nodded, because Ethan was the kind of kid who followed rules. Today, all he wanted was to ride his bike to the corner mailbox and back. That was it. Not the park, not the main road, just the mailbox. The blue bike leaned against the driveway, small, slightly scratched, with a crooked bell that rang even when he didn't touch it. He climbed on, pushed off slowly, and started pedaling. That's when she noticed him. From behind the blinds of the largest house on the block, Melissa Grayson watched with narrowed eyes. Melissa was 42, impeccably dressed even on weekends, hair pulled into a tight blonde ponytail that never moved out of place. She was the HOA vice president, though everyone knew she was the one really in charge. Her living room was spotless, too spotless, the kind of clean that felt hostile. She sipped her iced coffee and stared through the glass like a predator spotting movement. A child, on a bike, near her section of the sidewalk. Her lips tightened. "Oh no," she muttered. "Not again." Melissa set her cup down with sharp precision and grabbed her phone. She didn't call the parents. She didn't step outside to talk. She didn't even check the HOA rulebook because she didn't need to. In her mind, she was the rulebook. By the time Ethan reached the mailbox, he felt it. That strange pressure kids sometimes feel when an adult is staring at them. He turned his head and froze. Melissa was already halfway down her driveway, heels clicking aggressively against the concrete, sunglasses pulled low, mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite anger yet, but was headed there fast. "Hey!" she snapped. Ethan flinched so hard his bike wobbled. He stopped pedaling. "Yes, ma'am?" he said quietly. Melissa stopped just a few feet away, hands on her hips, towering over him. "Do you live here?" she demanded. Ethan nodded. "Yes, ma'am, that's my house." He pointed. Melissa followed his finger, then scoffed. Figures. Ethan didn't know what that meant. "I'm just riding to the mailbox," he added quickly, like he needed permission for oxygen. Melissa leaned closer. "You're not allowed to ride bikes on the sidewalk in this section." Ethan's heart dropped. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I can go back." She straightened, clearly enjoying this. "Of course you didn't know. Parents never teach their kids anything anymore." That hurt, even if Ethan didn't know why. "I'll go home now," he said, turning his handlebars. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, because Melissa saw something else, something that made her eyes narrow even further. The bike. Specifically, the slightly chipped blue paint. "That bike doesn't meet HOA color compliance," she said suddenly. Ethan blinked. "What?" "Only neutral-toned outdoor equipment is allowed in visible areas," Melissa snapped. "It's in the rules." Ethan's throat tightened. I didn't know that either." Melissa smirked. "Well, ignorance doesn't excuse violations." She reached out and grabbed the handlebars. Ethan gasped. "Please don't touch my bike," he said, panic rising in his voice. Melissa's grip tightened. "Oh, I will absolutely touch it," she snapped, "until your parents learn how to follow rules." Tears burned in Ethan's eyes. "I needed to get home," he whispered. That's when Melissa lost her patience. "You're not going anywhere until I document this," she barked, pulling her phone up and snapping photos. Of him, of the bike, of the house behind him. Ethan stood there shaking, trapped between fear and confusion, his small hands still on the handlebars she refused to let go of. That's when a voice cut through the tension. "Ma'am?" Calm, firm, controlled. Melissa turned sharply. A police cruiser had pulled up quietly at the curb, and standing beside it was Officer Daniel Reyes. He hadn't planned to stop. He was just driving through the neighborhood on routine patrol, until he saw an adult aggressively holding a child's bike. Officer Reyes took one look at Ethan's face, pale, terrified, eyes glossy with unshed tears, and something in his chest tightened. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. Melissa's face instantly changed. Her anger vanished, replaced by something smooth, polished. "Oh, officer, perfect timing," she said brightly. "I'm dealing with an HOA violation." Officer Reyes's eyes didn't leave Ethan. "I was talking to the child," he said calmly. "What's going on?" Melissa laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, he's fine. Kids these days are just sensitive." Ethan swallowed hard. Officer Reyes crouched slightly to Ethan's level. "Hey, buddy," he said gently. "What's your name?" "Ethan," he whispered. "Are you okay?" Ethan hesitated, then shook his head. That was all Officer Reyes needed. He stood up, and his voice changed. "Ma'am," he said, tone firm now, "let go of the bike." Melissa blinked, shocked. "Excuse me?" "Now." The smile slid off her face. "You don't understand," she snapped. "I'm HOA vice president." "And I'm a police officer," Reyes interrupted, "and you're intimidating a minor." Silence fell over the sidewalk. Melissa's face flushed red. "How dare you accuse me?" "Let go of the bike." Slowly, reluctantly, Melissa released her grip. Ethan stumbled backward, clutching the handlebars like a lifeline. Officer Reyes stepped between them. "Ethan," he said gently, "go stand by my car." Ethan didn't hesitate. As he moved away, Melissa exploded. "This is unbelievable! He's breaking rules! His parents are irresponsible! This neighborhood has standards!" Officer Reyes turned fully toward her now, and his eyes were ice cold. "Ma'am," he said, "you're done here." Melissa scoffed. "Oh, I don't think so." She had no idea. She had just picked the worst possible day to cross the best possible cop. Melissa Grayson folded her arms tightly across her chest, heels planted like she owned the sidewalk. Officer Daniel Reyes stood between her and Ethan, his body language calm but unmistakably protective. Years on the force had taught him how to read people fast, and Melissa set off every internal alarm he had. Entitlement, control, and something darker beneath it. "This is private property governed by the HOA," Melissa snapped. "You have no jurisdiction over rule enforcement." Officer Reyes didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "I do have jurisdiction when an adult is detaining or intimidating a child." Melissa laughed sharply. "Detaining? Please, he could have left at any time." Officer Reyes glanced over his shoulder. Ethan stood near the patrol car, small fingers wrapped around the door handle, knuckles white. His bike rested awkwardly beside him. His eyes were fixed on the ground like he was afraid to look up. Officer Reyes turned back to Melissa. "Does that look like a kid who felt free to leave?" Melissa scoffed. "Kids cry over everything. That doesn't make it my fault." Something in Reyes's jaw tightened. "How long have you been questioning him?" he asked. Melissa waved dismissively. "A few minutes." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "A few minutes too many." Melissa's voice sharpened. "Officer, are you going to let this child continue violating HOA rules, or are you going to do your job?" Reyes took a slow breath. "My job," he said calmly, "is to protect people, especially children." Melissa stepped forward, invading his space. "And who protects the neighborhood from parents who don't raise their kids properly?" Reyes didn't move. "Back up," he said. Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" I said back up. The authority in his voice made nearby doors open. Curtains shifted. A woman across the street paused mid-watering, hose dangling forgotten. Melissa realized people were watching, and she hated that. She forced a tight smile. "I think this is being blown out of proportion," she said loudly, for the audience now forming. "I was simply enforcing rules." Reyes nodded once. "Then let's talk about that." He pulled out his notepad. "Name?" Melissa's smile faltered. "Why do you need that?" "Because I'm documenting this interaction." Her face reddened. "I didn't do anything wrong." "Then you won't mind," Reyes replied. Melissa hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. "Melissa Grayson," she snapped. "HOA vice president." Reyes wrote it down. "And the child's name is Ethan Parker," he continued, glancing at the boy. 8 years old. Melissa's head snapped up. "You're not seriously taking his word over mine?" Reyes' pen paused. "I'm taking my observations," he said. "And right now, I see an adult who escalated a non-issue into a confrontation with a minor." "That's absurd." Reyes turned to Ethan. "Ethan," he said gently, "can you tell me what happened? Just in your own words." Ethan swallowed. He glanced at Melissa. She stared back at him, cold, warning. "Officer Reyes noticed?" "Hey," he said softly, stepping slightly to block Melissa's line of sight. "You're safe. No one's in trouble for telling the truth." Ethan's lip trembled. "I was just riding to the mailbox," he whispered. "She yelled at me. Then she grabbed my bike. She wouldn't let me go home. A murmur rippled through the small crowd forming. Melissa's voice shot up. That is not what happened. Reyes held up a hand. Ma'am, enough. Melissa pointed at Ethan. He's lying. Kids exaggerate. Reyes's eyes hardened. Do you know what exaggeration looks like? He said. It looks different from fear. Melissa's breath hitched. She tried another angle. I was taking photos for documentation, she said quickly. That's standard HOA procedure. Reyes nodded. Did you have parental consent? No, but did you identify yourself calmly before engaging? I don't need to. Did you block him from leaving? Melissa hesitated again. That was the mistake. Reyes looked at her steadily. You did. Melissa exploded. You're twisting this. He was trespassing. That's a public sidewalk, Reyes replied flatly. He doesn't belong on my side of the street. Reyes's pen froze. That's an interesting choice of words, he said slowly. Melissa realized too late what she'd said. Before she could recover, a new voice joined in. Officer? An older man stepped forward, gray-haired, glasses, holding a tablet. That's Mr. Wilkins, someone whispered. Former HOA treasurer. Reyes turned. Yes, sir? Mr. Wilkins looked uncomfortable. I just wanted to say, this isn't the first time Melissa's done something like this. Melissa spun. You stay out of this. Mr. Wilkins flinched, but kept going. She's confronted kids before, parents too. She goes beyond the rules. The crowd murmured louder now. Melissa's face flushed deep red. You're lying. A woman near the mailbox spoke up. She yelled at my daughter last month. Another voice. She threatened us with fines over chalk drawings. Reyes slowly closed his notebook. Melissa's confidence was cracking. This is a witch hunt, she yelled. You're all ganging up on me. Reyes stepped closer, voice low, controlled. No, ma'am, this is accountability. Melissa's breathing grew erratic. You can't do this to me, she hissed. I run this neighborhood. Reyes met her eyes. And that, he said quietly, is the problem. Melissa suddenly pointed at Ethan again. He shouldn't even be outside alone. Where are his parents? Reyes answered before Ethan could shrink further. His mother is working, he said, and he was riding his bike within sight of his home. Melissa shook her head in disgust. Unbelievable. Neglectful parenting, and I'm the villain? Reyes didn't respond. Instead, he turned to Ethan. Ethan, he said gently, do you want to call your mom? Ethan nodded quickly. Reyes helped him dial. When she answered, Ethan's voice broke. Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. Her voice came through the speaker, panicked, shaking. What happened? Are you hurt? No, but there's a lady yelling, and a police officer. Reyes took the phone. Ma'am, he said calmly, this is Officer Reyes. Your son is safe. Melissa lunged forward. You have no right. Reyes raised a finger without looking at her. Stop. He finished explaining. On the other end, silence, then controlled fury. I'm leaving work, Ethan's mom said. I'll be there now. Reyes handed the phone back. Ethan clutched it like a lifeline. Melissa laughed bitterly. Oh, good. I'll explain her parenting failures to her face. Reyes' head snapped up. No, he said sharply. You won't. Melissa froze. What? You will not approach the child or his parent again, Reyes said. Not today. Not without legal counsel. Her mouth fell open. You can't tell me. I can, he replied, and I just did. Melissa shook with rage. You're siding with them? I'm siding with the law. She leaned in, voice venomous. You'll regret this. Reyes didn't blink. Threats aren't helping your situation. Melissa turned to the crowd. Enjoy your chaos, she spat. This neighborhood will fall apart without me. She stormed back toward her house. But Reyes wasn't done. Ma'am, he called after her. She stopped. Do not leave yet. She turned slowly. What now? Reyes' voice was steady. I'm issuing a formal warning for harassment of a minor. The crowd gasped. Melissa's eyes went wide. You wouldn't dare. I just did. Her world tilted. You think this ends here? She hissed. Reyes nodded once. For you? He said. No. Ethan watched from beside the cruiser, fear slowly giving way to something new. Disbelief, because for the first time, an adult had stopped her. The sound of tires screeching lightly against the curb broke through the murmuring crowd. A silver sedan pulled up too fast, parking crookedly in front of Ethan's house. The driver's door flew open. Ethan! His mother ran toward him, hospital scrubs wrinkled, hair pulled back hastily, eyes wide with terror. She dropped her bag without slowing, crouching immediately in front of her son, hands gripping his shoulders, scanning him for injuries. "Are you hurt?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Did someone touch you?" Ethan shook his head quickly, tears finally spilling. "No, Mom, I was scared." That was all it took. She pulled him into her arms tightly, her own tears breaking free. Officer Reyes stepped closer, giving them space but staying alert. Melissa watched from her driveway, arms crossed, jaw clenched so tightly the muscles twitched. "Well, isn't this dramatic?" she muttered loudly. Ethan's mother looked up slowly. Her eyes locked onto Melissa. "What did you say?" she asked, voice low. Melissa walked forward again, clearly unable to help herself. "I said maybe if you supervised your child, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Officer Reyes stepped between them instantly. "That's enough," he said sharply. Ethan's mother stood. She wasn't tall. She wasn't loud. But the fury in her eyes was unmistakable. "You grabbed my son," she said, staring straight past Reyes at Melissa. "Is that true?" Melissa scoffed. "I held his bike. Don't exaggerate." Ethan flinched at the sound of her voice. His mother noticed. She turned back to Reyes. "Officer," she said, "is there body cam footage?" Reyes nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Everything from my arrival onward." Melissa's face went pale. "That won't prove anything," she snapped quickly. "I was calm." Reyes didn't respond. Instead, he turned to Ethan's mom. "Ma'am, I need you to know this isn't an isolated incident," he said carefully. "Multiple neighbors have come forward." Melissa exploded. "You are ruining my reputation." Reyes looked at her evenly. "You did that yourself." Melissa's breathing grew ragged. She pointed wildly at the neighbors. "They're all against me. This neighborhood is full of rule breakers." A man near the sidewalk spoke up. "You called CPS on us over a toy left out overnight." Another woman added, "She followed my kids home with her phone out." The crowd buzzed now, disbelief turning into anger. Ethan's mom's hands clenched into fists. "You terrorized children?" she asked. Melissa laughed hysterically. "Oh, please, kids need discipline." That word, discipline, landed like a slap. Reyes's voice dropped dangerously low. "Discipline is a parent's job," he said, "not yours." Melissa spun toward him. "You think you're some hero? You don't know what it takes to keep order." Reyes stepped closer. "I know exactly what abuse looks like." Silence. Melissa froze. Reyes turned slightly, addressing the crowd. "Ma'am Grayson has been warned before," he said, "by this department." Melissa's head snapped up. "That was nothing." Reyes continued. "Verbal harassment, intimidation, false reports." Ethan's mom covered her mouth. "You reported my son?" she whispered. Melissa glared. He looked neglected. Reyes' jaw tightened. He looked like a child riding a bike. Melissa suddenly screamed. "You're all ungrateful. I sacrificed everything for this HOA." Reyes raised his radio. "Dispatch, I need confirmation on prior complaints regarding Melissa Grayson." Melissa's confidence shattered completely. "You can't do this!" Dispatch crackled back. "Confirmed. 3 prior calls, 2 dismissed, 1 unresolved." The crowd erupted. Melissa staggered backward. "This is insane," she whispered. "I was protecting everyone." Reyes turned to her. "No," he said. "You were controlling everyone." Melissa snapped. "You don't get it. If you let kids do whatever they want, chaos follows." Reyes held her gaze. "And if you terrorize them," he replied, "you create something worse." Melissa's face contorted. "You're turning them against me." Reyes nodded once. "Accountability feels like that." Melissa suddenly pointed at Ethan. "He's lying. He's manipulating you." That was it. Ethan's mother stepped forward, voice trembling with fury. "You will not speak about my son like that," she said. "Ever again." Melissa sneered. "Or what?" Reyes answered for her. "Or you'll be arrested." Melissa laughed, sharp, broken. "For what? Being strict?" Reyes gestured toward the cruiser. "For harassment of a minor, for false imprisonment, for making false reports." Melissa's knees buckled slightly. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. Reyes stepped forward. "Turn around." The crowd gasped. Melissa stared at him, stunned. "You're kidding." "Hands behind your back." Melissa screamed. "This is abuse of power." Reyes didn't react. Now. Melissa looked around wildly. No one stepped in. No one defended her. Slowly, disbelief turned to panic. "No, no, no." She turned. Reyes cuffed her. The click echoed like thunder. Ethan watched silently, eyes wide. His mom knelt beside him. "It's okay," she whispered. "She can't hurt you anymore." Melissa thrashed. "You're ruining my life." Reyes guided her toward the cruiser. "You did that," he replied calmly. As he placed her inside, neighbors began clapping. Not loud, not celebratory. Relieved. Reyes shut the door and turned back. Ethan met his eyes. "Am I in trouble?" he asked softly. Reyes crouched down. "No, buddy," he said. "You were brave." Ethan blinked. "Really?" Reyes smiled. "Really?" The police cruiser pulled away slowly, red and blue lights flashing just long enough to draw a line under what everyone had just witnessed. Melissa Grayson, the woman who had ruled Maple Ridge Estates through fear and intimidation, sat in the back seat, hands cuffed, staring straight ahead in stunned silence. For the first time in years, she had no control. The street felt different almost immediately, lighter. Neighbors who had avoided eye contact for years now spoke in low, nervous voices, processing what had just happened. Some looked relieved, others looked ashamed, realizing how long they'd allowed things to go on. Officer Reyes returned to Ethan and his mother. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I'll need to take a formal statement." She nodded, still holding Ethan's hand tightly. "Of course." Ethan looked up at Reyes. "Is she gone?" he asked. Reyes crouched again. "She won't be coming back today," he said, "and she won't be able to talk to you again." Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Across the street, Mr. Wilkins approached. "I should have spoken up sooner," he said quietly. Ethan's mom met his eyes. "You did today," she replied. "That matters." Later that evening, the neighborhood buzzed with activity, but not the kind Melissa had controlled. This was different. Group chats exploded. Emails flew. Videos recorded by neighbors spread quickly. Clips of Melissa screaming, pointing, losing control. Someone had captured the moment she was handcuffed. By nightfall, the HOA board emergency meeting was scheduled. Melissa wasn't invited. Inside the community clubhouse, tension filled the air. "We can't ignore this anymore," one board member said. "There are witnesses, body cam footage." Another shook his head. "She's been a liability for years." A vote was called, unanimous. Melissa Grayson was removed from her HOA position, effective immediately. But the consequences didn't stop there. The next morning, Ethan's mom sat in a small interview room at the police station while Reyes reviewed paperwork. Melissa's attorney reached out, Reyes said. "She's claiming misunderstanding." Ethan's mom laughed bitterly. "She terrorized my child." Reyes nodded. "And we have evidence." He slid a tablet across the table. Body cam footage played. Melissa grabbing the bike, blocking Ethan, raising her voice, calling him a liar. Ethan's mom closed her eyes. "She enjoyed it," she whispered. Reyes didn't disagree. "Charges are moving forward," he said. "Harassment of a minor, false reporting." "And the HOA?" she asked. Reyes smiled slightly. "They're under investigation too." That afternoon, a social worker visited Ethan's home. Ethan was nervous at first. "Am I in trouble?" he asked again. "No," the woman said kindly. "We're here to make sure you're okay." Ethan's mom sat beside him. "He hasn't wanted to ride his bike since," she said softly. The social worker nodded. "Trauma can do that." That night, Reyes drove past Maple Ridge Estates again. Kids were outside, laughing, riding bikes. Chalk drawings colored the sidewalks. Bright, messy, joyful. No one yelled. No one grabbed phones. For the first time, the neighborhood looked like a place for families again. Across town, Melissa sat alone in her living room, the silence deafening. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, messages, resignation emails, legal notices. She threw the phone across the room. "They're all ungrateful," she muttered. But deep down, something else crept in. Fear. Days later, the court date arrived. Melissa stood before the judge, no longer confident, no longer polished. Just small. Charges were read. Witnesses spoke. Ethan's statement was read aloud. When the judge asked if Melissa had anything to say, she hesitated. For the first time, there was no speech. No justification, just silence. The ruling came swiftly. Probation, mandatory counseling, a restraining order barring her from contacting any minors in the neighborhood, and a warning. Abuse of authority, the judge said, will not be tolerated. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. "Any comment?" one asked. Melissa walked past without a word. At home, Ethan sat on his porch, holding his bike. Reyes stopped by. "You ready?" he asked. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. He climbed on, pedaled slowly, then faster. His mom watched, tears in her eyes. Reyes smiled. The first time Ethan rode his bike again without fear, the sun was just beginning to set. Golden light spilled across Maple Ridge Estates, painting the sidewalks in warm orange tones. The air felt different, not tense, not watched, just peaceful. Ethan pedaled slowly at first, his small hands gripping the handlebars tighter than necessary. His mom walked behind him, careful not to rush, careful not to pressure. "You're doing great," she said softly. Ethan nodded. He made it to the mailbox, then a little farther, then all the way around the block. When he finally stopped, breathless and smiling, his mom clapped gently. "I did it," he said, disbelief and pride mixing in his voice. "Yes, you did," she replied, pulling him into a hug. Across the street, neighbors watched. Some waved, some smiled, some looked away, ashamed they hadn't spoken up sooner. But everyone understood one thing now. Silence had been part of the problem. Officer Daniel Reyes drove by later that evening, slowing his cruiser just enough to catch the moment. Ethan spotted him and waved enthusiastically. Reyes waved back. He didn't stop. He didn't need to. The job was done. Or at least, the most important part was. Weeks passed. The HOA board changed. New leadership was elected. Parents, retirees, people who actually lived there instead of ruling it. Rules were rewritten. Language was softened. Enforcement was limited. Children were no longer treated like problems to be managed, but like kids. Chalk drawings stayed on sidewalks. Bikes leaned against fences. Laughter returned. And something else returned too. Trust. Melissa Grayson watched all of it from a distance. She no longer lived in Maple Ridge Estates. The house had gone on the market quietly, without a sign. People noticed anyway. They always did. She moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. No HOA, no board, no power. Just rules she couldn't bend. Her days were silent. No emails demanding compliance. No fines to issue. No authority to hide behind. Just court-mandated counseling sessions and a lot of time to think. And sometimes, late at night, she replayed that moment in her head. The moment the officer stepped between her and the child. The moment she realized the badge wasn't on her side. The moment power evaporated. Back in Maple Ridge, Ethan's school held a Community Helpers Day. Police officers, firefighters, nurses, teachers, all invited. Officer Reyes stood near his cruiser, answering questions, letting kids sit in the driver's seat. Ethan approached slowly. His mom nudged him gently. "Go ahead." Ethan walked up, heart pounding. "Hi," he said. Reyes turned and smiled. "Hey, buddy." Ethan hesitated. Are you the good cop?" Reyes chuckled softly. "I try to be." Ethan nodded seriously. "You saved me." Reyes crouched down so they were eye level. "I didn't save you," he said. "You told the truth. That's what mattered." Ethan thought about that. Then he smiled. "I want to be brave like that again." Reyes placed a hand over his heart. "You already are." Ethan ran back to his mom, beaming. She wiped tears from her eyes. That night, Reyes sat in his cruiser, finishing paperwork. He paused for a moment, staring out the windshield at the quiet street. He'd been a cop for 15 years. He'd seen crimes far worse, violence far louder, but this case stayed with him. Because it wasn't about broken laws. It was about broken boundaries. About what happens when adults forget that authority is meant to protect, not control. And how quickly power can become cruelty when no one pushes back. Somewhere out there, another child would face another Melissa Grayson. Another adult who thought rules mattered more than humanity. Another moment where fear would try to win. But Reyes knew something else too. Sometimes all it takes is one good cop. One person willing to step in. One person willing to say, "No, this stops now." Ethan fell asleep that night with his bike parked neatly by his bed. Not because he was afraid to leave it outside, but because tomorrow he planned to ride again. Power doesn't make someone right. Rules don't excuse cruelty. And authority means nothing without compassion. Sometimes the loudest evil looks ordinary. And sometimes, justice looks like a calm voice, a steady badge, and a good cop standing between fear and a child. If this story moved you, if you believe kids deserve protection, and if you believe power should always be questioned, subscribe, because stories like this matter.